Welcome to another episode of This Is Why I Don't Vote, a podcast. Season 5, Episode 20. Your safe space to discuss sports, politics, social issues, and even religion, where we will take it all very seriously, but not too seriously. So what do we want? Do we want transparency? Do we want to see politics, to see our system of government operate as if we were at a bar and they have those open kitchens and we can watch them literally make the sausage? Aren't we happier now that we have social media and that we can see in real time what other people are thinking and saying and doing? Although they don't seem correlated, Donald Trump comes out and he basically lays bare how he's going to run the government for the next 4 years. And Kanye West releases, I guess you would call it an album. I don't know if you can call it an album or a series of songs. I don't know what the hell the guy is doing, but you clearly know where Kanye stands. Whether that leads one to believe he needs to be medicated or not, I'll leave that up to you. But the internets are in an uproar and commerce over chaos. Does Trump's self-interest and the way that he sees the world, this transactional, business-friendly environment, actually have a chance at leading to peace in the Middle East? Thank you all to my loyal listeners. I do appreciate you. If you're new to the podcast, please like, subscribe, thumbs up, 5-star, write a review, send to friends and enemies far and wide. This Is Why I Don't Vote podcast is on Patreon. If you like what you hear, please consider supporting.
Act 1. I don't mind the things I hate if they are far away from me.
I feel compelled to speak to Trump getting this $400 million luxury jet from the royal family of Qatar after there was an announcement that I believe there are like a number of different properties that the Trump companies are going to develop in Qatar in excess of something like $1.5 billion, I believe it is. So within the same week or so that you're getting this announcement that the Trump business enterprise that Donald Trump very likely hasn't divested himself from is developing all of this property in Qatar to the tune of 1.5, 2.5, I don't know the number, several billion dollars. The Qatari royal family is turning around giving him this $400 million luxury jet. Of course, everyone is up in arms, but I want to speak to it in light of this new song by Kanye West that's called Heil Hitler. And one might think, these two things have absolutely nothing to do with one another, but I beg to differ. It's the old maxim, 'tis better to keep silent and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. By the way, that quote has been attributed to both Abraham Lincoln and Mark Twain, and if you do any bit of research on it, it's highly unlikely that either one of them ever uttered it. We live in this social media world where we have this unadulterated window into how people think, what they value, how desperate they are for validation. And frankly, I think we're wrestling as a society with how much transparency we actually want. Let's look at the Trump situation. We lament, and I believe that most of us, no matter what side of the political aisle we're on, lament this corruption, this dark money in politics. A great example of it that was right in front of our face for years was the Clinton Foundation. Bill and Hillary Clinton formed this foundation that's supposed to be working in service of the United States being able to help people around the world meet the challenges of their geographical limitations, their political limitations, their social limitations. It's very similar to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. These are international foundations that you discover over the course of time are great vehicles for influence peddling, particularly from international donors. These legal entities allow for all this money to flow in and out from all parts of the world under the guise of being in service of helping people. You have Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden, and as it turns out, many of the siblings, cousins, pretty much the lineage, the descendants of Joe Biden, all involved in influence peddling in Ukraine and in lobbying. And they have these vehicles, these legal entities by which they can do it. Donald Trump comes in and says, you know what? I'm going to start a shit coin. I'm going to start one of these meme coins, and it skyrockets in value, and then it plummets after he and many of his key investors withdraw all the money, And now there's reporting that many of the people that were instrumental in inflating the value of that coin vis-a-vis investment were foreign investors. It was the Clinton Foundation for Donald Trump. It was the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for Donald Trump. It's the lobbying arm of the Biden family for Donald Trump. The other side of it is, instead of having some sort of foundation or even starting some sort of coin, you've got your business. You are a land developer and you go to all of these different parts of the world and you make these deals to develop land, and you get these concessions that may or may not benefit the United States of America. They may not serve the domestic political interests of the American people, but maybe they do. The entire time you're negotiating, you're also negotiating from your private interests. For the Trump loyalists, it's not whether or not he's doing it. It's always been whether or not he would lie about it. It may be a perverse sense of honesty that people are looking for, but it's honesty nonetheless. We could sit here and argue about the ethics of it, but the fact of the matter is, all of these politicians, all of these people we consider luminaries in the business world, particularly the tech world, this is what they do. They create these legal entities to have this money, dark money, flow in and out of different coffers for different political or social, but particularly business reasons. Is it uglier to know that it's going on behind your back, or is it uglier to see it going on right in front of your face? I've mentioned it in a few recent podcast segments. One of the reasons why I think so many people love Trump is that he comes right out and says, look, it's a game. I know the rules. I'm playing by them, and I'm playing to win. Trump hasn't tried to embrace this pretense that somehow these politicians, the people in Washington, D.C., are doing whatever they're doing for the higher or the greater good. If you look at what Kanye West has done, and how immediately that content has been banned from so many platforms, you have to ask yourself, are we more concerned that this type of content would influence someone who's otherwise not racist or not open to these ideas? Or is it a vehicle? Is it a platform? Is it an avenue for someone who is open to these ideas, if not already a convert, to then out themselves? I'm the last guy to know. I'm the last guy to know on the internet. I saw something on YouTube that was a copy from a TikTok video, and it was people singing this new Kanye song, and they were doing the Nazi salute, and they were singing all of the words vociferously, of course, all of the racial slurs and the profanities, and it inspired me to do this piece because I'm looking at this lack of transparency in politics for the last 30, 40, 50, 100, 200, 300 years. And all the frustration that people felt about that led to someone like Donald Trump, who comes in and is just openly transparent with the fact that, look, this is a transactional presidency. This is a transactional government. Is it any different from any of the other governments that any of the other politicians that you ever voted for ever created? No, it's not. And the emotion that I feel like the media, particularly the legacy media, is trying to impart upon me is, look how horrible this is. I think it was horrible 10 years ago. I think it was horrible 25 years ago. I think it was horrible on the date of my birth. How is it different? So shouldn't our disgust be more about the fact that this is the way things have been done for a very long time, particularly in the United States government, but probably in governments all over the world throughout the course of human history? Is there something that we can do about that? Do we have the will to do anything about that? Because if we don't, then who gives a shit if Donald Trump is getting a $400 million jet from Qatar? What difference does it make versus any of the other vehicles that any of these other people have set up to get the same kind of money from the same kind of actors? Looking at the Kanye situation, I have a hard time accepting that putting that type of material out on the internet is going to influence people to adopt these ideas that aren't already open to them. Maybe I'm being naive in that capacity. Maybe it is that there are children out there who are forming their ideas and are so impressionable that hearing that is going to lead them down a dark path. I can't deny that there's value in that argument, but I'm overwhelmingly on the side of if you ban it, you're only making it that much more attractive. And as I have discussed on the podcast before, banning things and creating a black market makes them more valuable. If you can't get something legally, it instantly becomes more valuable. And the ways that you can obtain that expose you to as many dangerous avenues as whatever is being banned itself. If you couldn't hear this Kanye song on Twitter, where could you? Would you rather people go to Twitter, which is itself a cesspool, or to some of these seedy, weird 4chan chats or Reddit chats or wherever these forums exist to get this type of content? Do you want to push people there where they can be exposed to so many other unorthodox, is probably the least offensive word I could use, unorthodox ideas? Most of you know me, and most of you know that I feel this way and have felt this way for a long time. I don't think Kanye's a genius. I never did. I thought he was a good producer. I never liked his music, but I respected the fact that so many people did and that he could, almost at the drop of a hat, create catchy, poppy beats. I was never enamored with his lyricism, and I'm not enamored with it now. So the fact that we're seeing this, what most people would call fall from grace from someone like Kanye, it presents to me as more a temper tantrum at everyone that had considered him a genius for so long, and in all of these social circles where he was accepted as perhaps the pinnacle of success, if not always the center of attention. He's losing all of that and he's throwing a temper tantrum. This has been apparent to many people, including me, the last guy to know, for years. And what is anybody going to do about it? Nothing. We can shake our head and sit in judgment and do absolutely nothing. It's no different than the lamentation that we all have about the political system. We're terribly, terribly disturbed by it, and we're not going to do a damn thing about it. The things that Kanye says is disgusting, and it should not be in the public forum, and we're really not going to do anything about it. I saw this meme on Instagram, and it sums up my feelings about both of these issues succinctly. I'm not bothered with the things that I hate if they're far away from me. That would lead one to believe that I'm arguing or that I'm trying to advocate for distance being the antidote. But the fact of the matter, it's out of sight, out of mind. If these things are transparent, we are frustrated and disgusted. And if they are silent, if they are done in secret, we are frustrated and we are disgusted. And unfortunately, it appears under either circumstance, we're not going to do a damn thing about it.
Act 2, Commerce over Chaos.
Most of the segments that I've done about the Trump administration since he's taken office over the course of the last 100 days, I feel it's fair to say that they've been critical, or they haven't been at least supportive of the policies or the way that these policies have been enacted. But Trump said a couple of things this week in his tour of the Middle East that I think are very important in understanding how the man looks at governance. As I stated over and over again in the last segment, Trump is very transactional and he's very transparent. He looks at government more as a business. No, better said, he looks at government as opportunity to conduct business. How can government flex its muscles in order to facilitate business amongst organizations, amongst nations? And in particular, how can I and my family get rich off of this? So Trump is defending his acceptance, which hasn't really been consummated yet, but his acceptance of this $400 million jet from Qatar, and he lets slip one of those prescient Trump things that are a window into not only how business is done, but how Washington operates as well. Trump does this on occasion. He says things without really thinking about it, and I don't think that he realizes how much information he's conveying in these little quips that he makes. But a reporter is challenging him on a gift of this magnitude, a $400 million jet, and he lets fly, well, we give them so much, why wouldn't we be willing to accept a gift from them? Everyone in Washington understands this, that there is a quid pro quo when it comes to all of the money that these countries are accepting from the United States, that the money is being doled out for specific purposes. And part of those specific purposes is the United States, vis-a-vis politicians, vis-a-vis businesses, expects that money to come right back to them. All the other politicians, all the other businesses, none of them really want the American people to understand how this is just taking taxpayer money, distributing to someone who is going to spend it in certain places within the United States, namely with the decision makers who are taking that taxpayer money and distributing it in the first place. Trump lays it bare. Hey, we're giving them all this money. Why wouldn't they give us some of it back? And why wouldn't we accept it? In Trump's mind, and I'm starting to understand that more and more Americans feel this way as well, if this is the way the system works, then why do we have to have this veneer of proceduralism and civility? Why do these things have to be couched or presented in some sort of American virtue or altruism? Most of us accept the fact that this is purely transactional. And if in creating an environment where you can have commerce over chaos, which is what Trump used, the term that he used when he was making that address to Riyadh, all of the leaders in the Middle East, in order to have commerce over chaos, you have to have peace. And you have to have these nations who may hate one another at least cooperate well enough to make that money. It's no different. This came through me and I thought it was so amazing, but it's really no different than a turf war between rival gangs. You could go back as far as The Godfather. There are a lot of twists and turns in The Godfather, but the plot is very simple. You've got the old school mafioso bosses, and you've got this new school coming in wanting to sell drugs. You've got your old territorial disputes between the old guard, and you've got the new guard coming in wanting to introduce a product that many of the old bosses don't want as part of the accepted criminal enterprises. You can see this in countless gangster movies. The through line is always the same, that there's enough money out there to be made for all if we could just keep the peace. And generally, in order to make those movies exciting, in order to make those television shows exciting, no one can keep the peace. But the fact of the matter is, commerce over chaos is more lucrative for everybody involved, even if you hate the people that you're working with. Senate Republicans just issued this letter, for all intents and purposes trying to blow up the peace deal with Iran because they're demanding that Donald Trump stick to an edict that he made in his first administration with regard to Iran enriching uranium. They see the writing on the wall. They see a Trump administration that is trying to bring now Syria into the fold. If you missed Trump's comments on that, it was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. The guy who is now president of Syria was basically involved with a number of different terrorist groups that the United States of America had listed as terrorist groups. These are terrorist organizations. At one point, I believe the U.S. had a $10 million bounty on this guy. He's now president of Syria. Trump goes and meets with him and says, tough guy, tough background. Yeah, I guess when you have the world's foremost superpower trying to kill you for 20 years, you're pretty tough. Trump is making peace with Syria, with Iran, which then bleeds into Yemen. Understand that he made this overture towards the Houthis. We're not going to attack the Houthis. They're not going to attack us. That helps facilitate a peace deal with Iran. That's going to bring Yemen into the fold. Now Syria is going to be in the fold. We're looking at a peaceful Middle East. For what purpose? Does Trump really believe in peace as an aim or a goal in and of itself? Probably not. Does he believe in commerce over chaos? You damn straight he does. It's going to be extremely difficult for Donald Trump and his companies to complete $1 billion real estate development project in Qatar if Qatar is in this dire conflict with United Arab Emirates, with Saudi Arabia. None of these deals, none of these land deals are going to be worth the paper they're printed on if the Middle East is still this cauldron of conflict. It creates this interesting question. Does it matter what the motivations are if you reach a peace accord in the Middle East where all the guns fall silent? All of our past administrations have had peace as a goal in and of itself. We want to reach a peaceful solution because peace is good. Peace is better than war. As obvious as that sounds, none of those administrations ever got close to it. But when you walk in and you say, look, motherfuckers, are we going to make money or not? Because the direction that we're going, we're not going to make money. We're going to keep shooting each other, and there's going to be deals, dollars left on the table. It sounds funny to say as much, but Donald Trump could walk into Mexico tomorrow, and all of the cartels that have all this bad blood between them, I bet you in a month, he could get them cooperating. How? With promises, with deals that he was going to make, not only with the United States of America, but with his own land development organizations. It's no different than what he did with Ukraine, arguing that, look, you want to have these rare earth mineral deals with the United States, exclusively with the United States. When all of that money starts to flow, that in and of itself is a security agreement. Nobody is going to want to blow up any one of these deals for a political ideology, for a religious ideology, for a social ideology when the money starts to flow. And to the extent that they're willing to do so, everybody else that's involved in those deals is going to squash them. Commerce over chaos may very well achieve something that no one thought possible: peace in the Middle East. This is Why I Don't Vote, a podcast.